It is 4:12. It looks like we're missing one council member.
Mayor, do you know if our council members experiencing technical difficulties?
I have no clue. I just figured we'd give a courtesy couple of minutes and then start up.
Yeah, of course.
This couldn't, this of course made me think of Bob Spiegel, but Okay, I see we have all of our council members now, and I will reconvene the City Council Successor Agency and Housing Authority meeting for May 12th, 2022. Where are we? So can we have roll call, please?
Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan,
Present.
Councilmember Kelly,
Here.
Councilmember Nestandi,
Here.
Councilmember Quintanilla, Mayor Harnick.
Here, thank
All
you.
councils present.
Thank you. And we'll now go to the Pledge of Allegiance and an inspiration, and Councilmember Quintanilla will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please stand if you are able. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you. With Armed Forces Day coming up and Memorial Day, I mean, it's certainly a time to think about and thank many who afforded us the liberties we have. And I have some words from Judge Learned Hand, which my colleagues know is one of my favorite people. So I will read from him. And it's, what then is the spirit of liberty? I cannot define it. I can only tell you my own faith. The spirit of liberty is the spirit which is not too sure that it is right. The spirit of liberty is the spirit which seeks to understand the minds of other men and women. The spirit of liberty is the spirit which weighs their interests alongside its own without bias. The spirit of liberty remembers that not even a sparrow falls to earth unheeded. Thank you. Now, do we have any reportable action from closed session?
Direction was given, but no reportable actions were taken. Thank you.
Thank you. I do want to go a little bit out of order. I wonder if the city clerk could give us some housekeeping reminders about our virtual meeting and ways to participate.
Certainly, for those on Zoom, if you would like to participate in public comment, please click on the raise hand button on your screen or smartphone. If you're joining the meeting on your phone by dialing in, please hit *9 to raise your hand, and when called upon, press *6 to unmute yourself. Please keep your comments to no more than 3 minutes and begin by stating your name for the record. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, so we will move at this point. We will come to comments later, but at this point we will go to awards presentations. And we do have a proclamation honoring National Public Works Week. And of course we hold, oh, look at everybody's there. We hold our public works team in the highest regard. We thank you for everything you do for our community. I have now become that person. I go to other cities and I go, their streets are nowhere near as nice as ours. You do so much good for our community, and I thank you. And I would like to read this entire proclamation. Whereas public works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are of vital importance to sustainable and resilient communities and to the public health, high quality of life, and well-being of the people of Palm Desert and California. And whereas these infrastructure, facilities, and services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of public works professionals who are engineers, managers, and employees from state and local governments and the private sector, and who are responsible for rebuilding, improving, and protecting our nation's transportation, water supply, water treatment, and solid waste systems, public buildings, and other structures and facilities essentials for our citizens. And whereas it is the public interest for citizens, civic leaders, and children to gain an understanding of the importance of public works programs in their respective communities, and whereas the American Public Works Association has celebrated National Public Works Week annually since 1960. Now, therefore, I, Jancy Harnick, Mayor of the City of Palm Desert, California, along with the entire City Council, do hereby recognize the week of May 15th through 21st, 2022 as National Public Works Week in the city of Palm Desert, and urge all residents to recognize the substantial contributions made by our public works professionals to protect our national health, safety, and quality of life. And I'd like to give an opportunity for our council members, because we work so strongly with Public Works and all of our goals and all of our vision. If any of our council members would like to say anything, I would welcome that. Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I would just say very briefly, thank you so much for what the Public Works Department does for our city. You know, it's often kind of assumed and taken for granted until we travel, as the mayor said, to other cities. And we go, whoa, look at the potholes, look at the sidewalks that are bolting up, look at the bridges that are failing, the pipes that are bursting. And our staff does such a great proactive job that directly impacts the quality of life for all our residents. And if we don't say it often enough, then I apologize, but we appreciate you. Thank you for a job well done. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Quintanilla.
Thank you, Mayor. Very briefly as well, it's not just driving around and seeing our lovely streets, it's knowing the people that take pride in what they do that makes it so special. And for those that haven't had the experience of reporting something on the Palm Desert app, they are extremely responsive and swift. So don't hesitate. We have an amazing department and we encourage you to connect with them too. Thanks. And good job, guys.
Councilmember Kelly. And you're muted. You don't show you're muted, but you are.
Do you hear me?
There you are.
Hey, my colleagues have expressed our gratitude beautifully. And I will simply add this. We all know that quite a few new residents have come out to the desert during the course of the pandemic, escaping more intense urban areas. Whenever I meet someone who has newly moved to Palm Desert, I ask them why they selected Palm Desert, what have they noticed? And tops on the list is always the beauty of our city, how well it's maintained, streets, medians, everything in sight. Including, of course, our art in public places. So you have lots and lots of fans, even if they don't send you an email each and every day to say so.
Thank you, Councilmember Nistan.
And I'd just like to add on to our wonderful Public Works team, especially those that are out there on those hot summer days. And I see our Public Works people out there while I'm driving in my air-conditioned car or going into an air-conditioned office building. And it just takes such character to be out there, especially in our hot summer days. And all of you, thank you for making our city and making us council members look good. You put a positive face and image on our city. So thank you.
Okay, thank you all. Absolutely. Thank you for supporting our quality of living. You make it great and you keep us safe. Thank you so much. Okay, we will now move to, gosh, I love that feel good moment. We will move to city manager comments.
Thank you, Mayor. Thomas Soul is present to give you a quick update of many of the community events that he's working on right now. So Thomas, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mayor, members of the City Council. The first thing on our list for today is happening actually right after the council meeting. We have our free concerts in the park on every Thursday night during the month of May. This year they start at 6:30 p.m. It's a little earlier than our normal time. We're giving that a try. So be sure to come on out. Tonight we're going to be hearing an 80s cover band, Flashback Heart Attack, who they don't just do 80s covers. They're actually a legit band in their own right. Really exciting and entertaining. Of course, there will be food trucks, but we encourage people to come on out, bring their own food, blanket, picnic, and chairs to enjoy the show. Next week, May 19th, is Country Night with the Kelly Ray Band. And then on May 26th, we'll wrap it up with Legends of Classic Rock. So kind of a full slate for everybody. We want to remind everyone that Sunday, May 15th is Palm Desert Residents Day at the Palm Springs Air Museum. Desert residents are invited to enjoy the day at the museum free of charge. To receive free admission, you must show proof of residency in the form of a California driver's license or a California identification card. And museum hours are 10 a.m. until 5 p.m. And then I wanted to remind everyone about Coffee with a Cop coming up. That will be Tuesday, May 17th, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. That will be at the Starbucks on El Paseo and San Pablo Avenue. It's a good time to interact with our public safety men and women who will be out there. And as always, for more information about fun events in Palm Desert, you can visit discoverpalmdesert.com. And for city different meetings and things, visit cityofpalmdesert.org. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. Is there anything else?
Not tonight. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll now move to council member reports and requests for action. And let's start with Council Member Kelly, please.
Nothing to share this evening.
From one of the busiest women I know, I'm incredulous. Okay, we'll go to Council Member Nastandi.
No comments this evening, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. And then Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan.
Thank you, Mayor. Very briefly, you know, like my colleagues have attended various committee meetings. In my case, recently, the Homelessness Task Force, Parks and Rec Commission, the Public Safety Commission, and I'm just amazed at what a collection of expertise, enthusiasm, and passion we have assisting us, the City Council, in directing policy and the future for our community. It reminds me that our committees are now on a fiscal year basis, and if the public is listening, that means the terms are up June 30th. And public engagement is something that we appreciate and want to encourage as much as possible. So if there's a member of the public out there, hopefully more than one, that is interested in helping the city by serving on a committee or a commission, please inquire at City Hall, and you'll get all the information you need to help you with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Council Member Quintanilla.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have a few updates from the Cultural Arts Committee. I wanted to thank them for all of their work. This was a very interesting meeting as we discussed the impact of inflation on upcoming installations. So I will leave that for Amy to discuss. And there was a lot of praise and gratitude for Amy's continued support. At the Mccallum Education Policy Committee, they gave an update about how they took a jazz band around to Palm Desert elementary schools, serving 1,221 elementary school students. They were participating in the CV dance program, and they had extreme gratitude for Thomas for facilitating the relationship with the gardens and watching the students in movement. Very, very touching. And from a very positive note to a not so positive report at the CVAG public safety meeting, you know, we did have the presentation from the DA reminding everybody in the community about the dangers of fentanyl. And in further conversations about public safety, it's the graduation season, it's Mylar balloons and how that impacts the transformers. And so one of my suggestions was for cities to explore, are a certain size too big? And some of the members suggested perhaps an ordinance may be coming forward in different cities to avoid Mylar and help everybody stay away from blackouts in the summer. And that is it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I have a couple comments and a couple requests. We did, some of us went to the SCAG conference and some of the breakout sessions. And from there, one of the great things we learned, and I will be working with whomever the city manager directs me to work with, there is a program out there for our community members. It's affordable. It's ACP. I think it's affordable connectivity program, but they will get a significantly reduced rate with Spectrum. And so if we can get that in the bright side, we can find other ways to meet them and help them fill out forms if necessary so that they will have the broadband that they need for whether it's education, medicine, or work, whatever it may be. We want to make sure that they have access. A couple other things that I wanted to bring up. There are two bills that we really need to look at for our city. One of them we will be addressing with issues later on in the agenda. having to do with VMT, which is vehicle miles traveled, and LOS, level of service, and how we determine what we will charge developers and those sorts of things. So there is a bill we'd like to support, and that is SB 1410 by Senator Caballero. And I'd like us to look at that. And the other I'd like to oppose strongly because it will negate our Measure A funds that we work so hard to first get across the finish line and support so many of our infrastructure projects. And there is a bill that will be tying our hands how we can use those monies. And it's, you know, in our community, we get what we need. And it's again, taking away our local decision-making and understanding. And that is Laura Friedman, AB 2237. So I'd like us to take a look at that and send some information. I know the Riverside County Transportation Commission will send some bullet points out where we can speak up about those issues. And that's all I have. So we will move to the non-agenda public comments. So does anyone have anything that is not agendized that they would like to, and we do have a letter here. I hope you've all had an opportunity to read it regarding the Salton Sea. Is there anyone who would like to speak to a non-agenda item? Okay, now I see 9 hands up. These are for non-agendized items. So can we have the first? I see that there is a telephone number that ends with 7244. You have 3 minutes.
Hello. Yes. Hi, my name is Rob Glazer. I am a resident of the town next door to you. I'm a Palm Springs resident, and I'm commenting on a proposed ordinance relating regulation of houses associated with the ownership program called PACASO, PACASO. I have the good fortune of being the owner of the.
Sir,
yes, hello.
that is an agenda item, I believe, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, I don't know your structure, ma'am. I apologize. I can talk now, but I have a meeting I have to run into later, and I don't want to miss the chance to comment. May I just give you 1 minute of feedback, and then would that be okay since I'm already?
If that would satisfy you, yes.
Thank you so much. You're very kind. So I have been a resident of the Palm Springs, Palm Desert area for about 1.5 years. I bought the house in the old Las Palmas here in the late fall of 2020. I could not be more delighted to be a resident of this amazing community. I visited it many times, and I always wanted to live here, but I have 4 children in school in Seattle, and therefore am in Seattle for most of the time, and I can only get down to the desert, I don't know, maybe 60, 70 days a year, which is a lot, but not enough to justify owning a house in its entirety. So when PACASO came out with its program, which I have no affiliation with, I'm simply a customer of their model, I was excited about it, and working together with the fine folks at PACASO and a wonderful realtor here in the Valley, found a home, made an offer on it. The offer was accepted. We closed and then moved it into the structure, and I co-own the house with 4 other people, none of whom have ever previously owned in Palm Springs area, Palm Desert area to my knowledge, all of whom are responsible, respectable people that I'm happy to share the ownership of the house with. People have co-owned houses for years, and the model that the PACASO folks have, which I am very, very happy about and like very much, allows people who want to be a part of a community but can't live there full time and can't either financially or otherwise buy a house on their own. It allows access to homes in a way that was not previously available. I treat this like my home. Obviously, I pay taxes to our community. I care deeply. I've gotten to know my neighbors. We have lovely neighbors here. And my view is that the model that we have here is great for the community. It's a positive. It brings more people to the community. It increases the awareness of what an amazing place Palm Springs, Palm Desert area is. and I encourage you not to pass any ordinances that prevent this kind of model. If you want to have rules around disclosure so people know who their neighbors are, I would support that. I know who all my co-owners are, and we all get along and communicate regularly. I've gotten to know my neighbors. I've walked over and introduced myself to them. They all know me.
Thank you so much. And that's 3 minutes. I hope your meeting goes well. Okay, we're going to go to the next person, and I ask that you please respect the organization of this meeting and speak to items that are not agendized at this time. So the next person in the queue, the last 4 digits of the phone number are 0193. We ask you to give your name and address for the record. And you are muted. So the person with the last 4 digits, 0193, you are muted. Did you wish to speak on a non-agendized item?
Is it *6 or *9 to unmute?
It's *6 to unmute.
Okay, we will move to the next one. Samantha Thompson, please give your address for the record and name if it's not Samantha Thompson. And I hope this is 3 minutes on a non-agendized item.
Hello, council members. My name is Samantha Thompson. I am here to speak on an item that is on consent. I have been a second homeowner in the city of Palm Desert for 6 years now, and out of caution, I will not be providing my address today to protect my family from harassment.
Okay, I'm going to ask you that we will pull that item from consent because we do have a council member who must recuse herself during this item. So in an abundance of ethical caution, I am going to ask you to hold your comment and we will pull that from consent. And I assure you, no one's going to harass you from Palm Desert. Okay, the next one is Dan. If you are asking to speak on that specific issue that you have heard the last 2 speakers discuss, please put your hands down so that I don't have to call through everybody for us to go through that process. And then when we pull it, please put your hand back up. Okay, so we still have 3 hands that are up on this, 2 hands that are up on non-agendized issues. So we're going to try this again with the person who is the phone call in with the last 4 digits, 0193. Please give your name and address for the record. And you are muted. So if you hit *6, you can unmute yourself. Okay, while you figure that out, we are going to go to the next person, and that's Carlos Garcia. Please, 3 minutes on a non-agendized item.
Hi, my name is Carlos Garcia. I am a resident of North Palm Desert. I live at 74390 Zeppelin Drive in the Genesis community. And relative to public works, after every significant windstorm, such as we had on Mother's Day last Sunday, there's a great deal of sand that comes onto Dinah Shore Boulevard or road or whatever it is. But anyway, Dinah Shore has a lot of sand all over it. And interestingly, they are actually resurfacing the street, doing a beautiful job. We love our public works team, but we really want the sand issue, the moving dunes that come onto the road to be addressed because it presents a significant hazard. I've seen cars slip, slide. I did that this morning, having to run an errand in the area. It's really a significant hazard. So after every big windstorm, we would appreciate it if the sand dunes that come onto Dinah Shore from Bob Hope all the way up to Gerald Ford be cleaned up somehow. presumably with a, one of those street sweeper. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. And I do know some of those are CVAG, and I do see Councilmember Kelly, you have your hand up. Did you want to
Yes.
provide a brief remark?
I know Mr. Firestein has been in touch with Stephen Nelson, the HOA president, for Genesis to review quite extensive measures taken in response to the sand situation. So perhaps he could reach out to Mr. Garcia so he knows what's being done.
Great suggestion. And I know that they were working all over trying to mitigate the sand accumulation, and it was a lot this last time. So it's a big job. Okay, I see no one else in the queue waiting to speak on non-agendized items. So we will move to the consent calendar. And can someone, I'm looking on my screen, tell me which letter that is dealing with the zoning, and we will pull that.
I think that's B as in Bravo.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Okay, so we will pull that, and then I will ask the council members, is there anything else they would like to pull or comment on at this time?
Staff has done a great job at answering my questions. Thank you.
Great. Okay. Can we then, I'll entertain a motion at this time.
Move.
To approve.
I second the motion.
So we are moving the consent agenda less item number letter B. So we have a motion and a second.
Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan.
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly.
Yes.
Councilmember Nestandi.
Yes.
Councilmember Quintanilla.
Aye.
Mayor Harnick.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, then we will then at this time address the held over consent items, which is item B.
And I will recuse myself.
Thank you so much. We appreciate that. And who will be providing a staff report on this?
This is a second reading.
Yes,
So,
thank you. It is a second reading. And it
so,
was, yes.
so I don't know if we need a full report.
Well, I think let's present it. And then those who would like to speak to it will have that opportunity.
We do have Rosie, Lua, and Martine. Either one of you feel free to take the lead on that.
Absolutely. Mayor, members of the City Council, Rosie, Lua, our planning manager, and Bob are here as well to answer any questions you may have. But this is a second reading for the ordinance amendment that defined and provided definitions for the timeshare ordinance. And I'll offer additional comments, Bob or Rosie, or any questions you may have.
Okay, sounds like that was sufficient. So we do have public comment on that, and we want to give everyone a chance to provide their comment. The first person in the queue is Samantha Thompson. You have 3 minutes to address the council.
Hello, council members. Thank you. Again, my name is Samantha Thompson. Oh, sorry here. Oh, no. Can you hear me? Yes, yes, you can. My name is Samantha Thompson. I have been a second homeowner in the city of Palm Desert for 6 years now. Out of caution, I will not provide my address today to protect my family from harassment by local neighbors. Still, if the city would like to verify my address, my email is samantha.thompson678@gmail.com, where I am open to disclosing. My home ownership is an LLC where we have 4 owners, a 4th right in the arrangement, which equates to around 91 days of use for each of us. We use a Google Calendar to select our dates, which at times is very challenging, and have often discussed identifying a software service provider to assist us with this. Per my reading of the ordinance and the article in the Desert Sun, I would be in violation and viewed as an operator of a timeshare, which could result in significant fines, which would be devastating to me personally, especially after my financial impacts due to the COVID pandemic I have had to overcome already. Furthermore, I do not see Picasso or co-ownership as a real threat to this community, nor have I heard or noticed any disruption from the Picasso home. I regularly walk past the house of Skyward and have not seen anything odd. I did not even know the home was co-owned until there was a public uproar from locals. I have rambled on a bit here, I know, but I ask the city to consider caution before moving forward with action. You are all intelligent people, and can develop something far better than this overreach on individual property rights. Thank you.
The next person in the queue is Janelle Davis. You have 3 minutes. Please give your name for the record.
Hello, Council. My name is Janelle Davis. I first came out to Palm Desert a few years ago for a friend's wedding and fell in love with the desert scenery and quiet way of life. After the wedding trip, I immediately began planning my next visit, and I've stayed at the JW Marriott and accrued numerous hotel points ever since. On one of those trips, I was fortunate enough to meet Amelia Smith, whose full-time residence is in London, England. While I was having a rough day, she decided to take a moment of her time and ask me how I was doing. I explained my circumstance, and she told me about her home here that she shares with other co-owners. She said it wouldn't be used for the majority of the year and kindly offered me to stay if I would assist with the house's upkeep. Staying with Amelia at her home opened my eyes to the possibility of second home ownership in Palm Desert, the place I've already chosen to call my second home. Now, 2 years later, I have bought a share of the home with Amelia and our fellow co-owners. My arrangement may not be traditional, but we need to be more open-minded, especially in California, where the supply of housing cannot match the high demand. Moreover, co-owners like myself are not a threat to our community, no matter the type of arrangement. We should welcome more vibrant souls into our city, like Amelia and myself. Please do not pass an ordinance to limit individuals' opportunity to co-own a home. Thank you.
Thank you. The next in the queue is Rose Bailey. You have 3 minutes and you are muted. You are still muted. Okay, I think we'll go to the next person. Oh yes, and then we'll come back to Ms. Bailey. Daniel Manson, please give your name and you have 3 minutes. And you're muted. If you're on a computer,
I'm sorry.
Oh, there you go.
Having technical difficulties.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Daniel Manson. Thank you again, Council. I live on Rod Lever Lane. Today I speak in favor of Picasso and ask the City Council to vote no on the law extending the timeshare code to ban co-ownership. Buying property with Picasso is not a transaction of purchasing time. Picasso helps facilitate individuals to purchase real estate, no different from a group of friends or family who co-own the property together and hire a management group. The Picasso co-ownership model does not disrupt local communities. It adds significant value by promoting increased utilization of housing, depressurizing the median housing market, and thrusting more economic investment into the local community. The individuals advocating for these restrictions are older members of the community who are resistant to change, in my opinion. They would prefer fewer people of color in their community, and they tend to be classist. Let's be honest, it's 2022, not 1970. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Mr. David Durham, please. 3 minutes, and please provide your name.
Unmute, there we go. Hi, my name is David Durham. Thanks to the council for the opportunity to speak. I just wanted to give maybe our story in terms of how we became Picasso owners, and I think we represent a demographic that's pretty typical. My wife and I are a couple of years away from retiring. We've been visiting Palm Desert, the Coachella Valley for over 20 years from time to time, loved it. But we're really not in a position now yet to purchase a home outright, given the fact that my wife and I are still working. So Picasso was a great way for us to have an ownership stake in a great house, let Picasso maintain it, and share it with other people that have a vested interest financially to take care of the property. It is not a timeshare. We are a 1/8 owner in an LLC and have the ability to sell it at some point down the road, which for us is probably 2 years away, where we do hope and intend to buy a full home in Palm Desert. We look forward to that transition, and had we not had the opportunity in a Picasso setting, we probably would have explored other communities. But we love the city. I think we're great contributors financially. We certainly don't use it as a party house. Every night that we're there, we're having dinner on El Paseo, we're shopping and contributing in a positive way economically. So it would seem to me that my wife and I are pretty typical of other Picasso owners, and represent a demographic that should, in my opinion, be appealing to Palm Desert, both economically and culturally. And it seems like a mistake to eliminate the LLC vehicle that gives people like us the chance to experience your great city. So appreciate the opportunity to speak. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, we will now go to Ashton Cooper. You have 3 minutes, and please provide your name for the record.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Perfect. My name is Ashton Cooper. I love the Palm Desert community. I grew up here, but moved away for college. Now that I have graduated and settled into my career as a software engineer, I would love to own a second home in my hometown. I read the article in the Desert Sun discussing Picasso, a company that helps people co-own a second home. It seemed like a bunch of fear-mongering that would disrupt the local community, which I doubt will be the case. As a result, the city is moving forward to ban co-ownership. I am gravely concerned because 2 of my colleagues are placing an offer on the home for sale on Grapevine and others. We plan to purchase the houses through an LLC that protects our ownership rights and divides the ownership into 3 equal shares. We will not be living in the home full time, and will agree on when each party will stay at home. Doesn't the 14th Amendment protect co-ownership? How can the city dictate the manner people own? This ordinance is bananas, quite frankly. And thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you, Mr. Cooper. Our next speaker is Brandy Pratt. 3 minutes, and please provide your name for the record. And you are muted.
Hi, everyone. Yes, I'm Brandy Pratt, and I have had the opportunity to represent Picasso buyers. And I am here to tell you that they are 100% beneficial and trustworthy to our community. And I think that they're a great, huge asset in regards to going down to the local restaurants and becoming a part of this community. Thanks to, like I said, to Picasso, I've been able to see buyers purchase a second home or a part ownership, and the joy in their face that they never thought that this was going to be a reality, and now it is. It just brings so much joy to me. I think that, trying to pull this away from the community, and like I said, having Picasso owners become a part of the community is definitely going to be, I don't agree with it. So thank you so much for letting me talk. And like I said, I'm speaking on behalf of Picasso, and I represent buyers purchasing in Picasso properties. And I think that we should continue to allow this co-ownership. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, our next speaker is Amber Hayland. 3 minutes, and please give your name.
Hi, my name is Amber Holland. I'm a local real estate agent here in the desert. I work with EXP, and I just think that for myself as a real estate agent, think that Picasso is a great opportunity for people that are not utilizing their house full time. A lot of people struggle with the idea of owning a second home that they're not going to be able to attend and manage on their own. And with Picasso, I feel that it definitely helps people feel at ease because it's a corporation that's maintaining, managing, making sure that that the homeowners are following the rules and regulations of the city and of the property. They're not going to tolerate any kind of misbehavior. These are also people that they own multiple homes all over. They're not only owning this might not be their only second home. They might also own in Napa or Florida or La Jolla. And these are all high-end clients that we just really think that the desert needs. We want these type of people that are going to be supporting our community, buying at the stores, eating at our restaurants, and just really enjoying our desert lifestyle. I also want to remind us that they're not gaining a profit off of this. These are actual homeowners and they care about this house. They're not renting it out, nor are they allowed to rent it out to a single person besides letting themselves or their family utilize the home. There's no profit gain besides the actual equity of a home. And I think that we would be doing ourselves a disservice if we disregard that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. The next person in the queue is Jeffrey Williams. 3 minutes again, and please give your name for the record. And you are muted.
Yes, this has been very interesting. I'm an avid, I go out and play in Palm Desert. Many of the golf courses, I'm very, I really enjoy that aspect of the desert. My mom was a doctor at Kennedy, so I'm very familiar with that area. I've gotten to Picasso because of the fact that as I could actually buy a home on my own, it's not a problem. But the problem for me is that I'm not able to be there quite often. And so this Picasso program was something that I found to be very beneficial for me and my wife, who are like Mr. Durham brought out earlier, not at that range yet of completely retiring, but maybe about 5 or 6 years away. And so by doing this, we're able to, the professionalism of Picasso, the homeowners, the other owners are very, I would say, professional. And I see this as only as a benefit for the desert. I don't see any negativity to this. I understand with the Coachella crowd and the different things that go on with that, how that could spill over. But most of the people who are investing in this type of program are spending quite a bit of money, investing quite a bit of money. So I see it as a benefit for the Palm Desert. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Williams. The next person in the queue is Jill. Can you please provide your name, and remember you have 3 minutes.
Yeah, hi there. My name is Jill Muller, and I actually live in Colorado. My adult sons live in Los Angeles. So we bought this home because we wanted a place for our family to come together. I have a new grandchild, so it gives me the opportunity for my kids to come out. We will fly in from Colorado. We will rent a car. We go out again on El Paseo. I was just there over the weekend. I can tell you I spent $600 at your beautiful Sundance store on El Paseo. We also went to many restaurants there. I mean, we're just bringing in thousands of dollars to your community between groceries, food, golf. My husband just recently took up golf. He was at the Palm Desert Country Club or Resort and Country Club. He went golfing every day. He hired a golf pro. We bought bicycles at your bike shop there. So I just also don't understand why there's any negativity. If the Picasso people definitely screen who is buying. There are background checks done, there are credit checks done. It's not, they don't just allow anybody to buy these homes. It's definitely a formula for the right people for the right fit. I've met the neighbors on both sides. you know, whenever we leave, we give them all our leftover wine. You know, they love having us. We're very respectful, just like the other people who have talked. You know, we don't throw parties. We spend money basically in your town, and we're very fortunate to be able to do this. We both, my husband and I, are realtors, so we understand, you know, about respecting the home and the land and spending money in your town. So anyway, again, thank you for the opportunity, and I hope you continue to allow us to live in your town. Okay.
Thank you, Jill, and congratulations on your grandchild. Okay, is there anyone else who would like to speak to this issue? Okay, 0193 is back. So can you please give your name, and remember you have 3 minutes and you are muted. If you're on a phone, if you hit *6, is it *6? *6.
Yes.
There you
Can
go.
you hear me?
Yeah, we can
All
hear
right,
you.
thank you. Excellent. My name is Brandon Brosha. Thank you, council, for listening. I do own a property that's managed by Picasso. I live here in California. We own a couple of businesses in Mammoth Lakes, California. We understand what kind of pressures a small resort community or a larger one like yours gets from excessive traffic and unwanted traffic. The reason why we were so attracted to the Picasso model is because it put us into a home that we didn't have to manage. We shovel a lot of snow. I shoveled snow this week. And we didn't want to get to our second home and actually have to have that kind of maintenance involved. They have a great management program. It's very professional. And it put us into a home that we actually never thought that we'd be able to get into in an area that we love in Palm Springs. And to repeat a lot of what other have spoke of, we spend a lot of money. We golf, we eat out, we get our dogs groomed, we take our kids shopping. We're a family of 4. I get my car serviced at the VW dealership. You know, a lot of amenities that we don't get in our small community that we can take advantage of there in Palm Springs and Palm Desert, and we love them, and we love that community. The home is, it's our home. This is a space that we are raising our family in and creating memories in, and we love it. I think that you really want to be careful and realize what kind of a resident are not including into your community by putting, you know, such ordinances in place that wouldn't allow this. It actually might actually bring in the wrong crowd. It might actually, you know, prevent my family, my young kids from wanting to live there one day, which I think would be sad. So again, council, thank you for listening to my words. Choose wisely.
Thank you so much for taking your time today. We have one remaining speaker, Jessica Blanchard. You have 3 minutes, and please provide your name.
Hi, my name is Jessica Blanchard. I'm with the Pratt Group. I'm a realtor here in La Quinta. I think there were some really great points today. I just want to reiterate that these clients are all very affluent clients that purchase Picasso. They're not able to rent out the home at all. They're only able to use it themselves or with their family. And I think the greatest benefit for Picasso, you know, in lieu of four friends buying the home, there's a management company that pays for everything. It takes care of the gardener, the landscaper, the pool person, the housekeeper. They make sure that all the furniture is brand new. They're really taking great care of the property versus if you had 4 friends coming, you don't know how well the home is maintained. I think it's a great opportunity for families to get something a little bit nicer than, you know, a one-bedroom condo. They're able to purchase a portion of a luxury property and then hopefully at some point purchase a full home. So I think that I understand that Palm Desert doesn't want to have the loud music and the parties, but I think this is a totally different concept where they're really just families looking to enjoy their homes out here. So I just thank you so much for letting me speak.
Thank you for taking your time this evening. Is there anyone else from the public who would like to speak at this time? Anyone else? Okay, seeing no one, we will now go to, this is B, second reading and adoption of ordinance number 1378 to approve zoning ordinance amendment 220001 to modify Palm Desert Municipal Code, section 25.34.060 regarding timeshare projects. Are there any questions or comments at this time? Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate the public comments. I found it rather enlightening and quite relevant. I sense that as council members, we all share the same concerns about the potential consequences from an abundance of co-ownership. Where we may differ in our paths is the best solution for addressing those consequences. I think that the zoning ordinance amendment as proposed is flawed for two major reasons. Number one, in my mind, buying a 1 week interval in a 1,000-room hotel is very different than a few people getting together to co-own a single piece of property. And this ordinance fails to make that distinction. Number two, we heard from several members of the public that they're already engaged in a co-ownership arrangement. And I think I mentioned the last go around that we know that exists in Palm Desert, that people get together, it could be friends, could be family, and they each buy a 1/3 interest or 1/4 interest or whatever. This proposed ordinance fails to make a distinction between that kind of situation and a similar one that is really quite the same, but is professionally managed by someone who acquires the property, facilitates the co-ownership, and then at the discretion of the LLC members manages the property. That's not mandatory, by the way. So there's not a distinction between the so-called Picasso model and the informal co-ownership arrangement. And I think that's the second flaw. Therefore, I think that the zoning ordinance amendment as proposed is not the best method of addressing our shared concerns about this situation. And in fact, I think it will lead to a tremendous amount of confusion. And where there's confusion, there's inevitable litigation. I would suggest that we postpone the second reading and address some of those concerns and see if we can craft a more effective solution. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Quintanilla.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was taking notes as I heard every person share their concerns, and I couldn't help but notice that nobody provided their addresses. And that's part of the things that we look for when we're looking into neighbors in our community. And I understand that someone said that they didn't want to provide it for their safety, but it made me wonder, do you know your neighbors if you don't feel safe from your neighbors? And that is something that struck me as odd, that we have a lot of people saying, yes, this is great because they're owners. We don't have anybody that says we've lived next to them X amount of time and they're great neighbors, or we know them. I think I heard one person say, yeah, our neighbors are great. We give them leftover wine. That may be a small transaction. Who doesn't appreciate a little gift? But I really do find it a little strange that no one gave their addresses, which we normally require or encourage our residents to do, such as Mr. Garcia addressing a sand issue. But I am just not convinced with how many people called in that may have been out of state, out of the area, with just being Picasso owners, which don't impact our community directly. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilmember Kelly.
Well, thank you to everyone who took time to come and express yourselves and be a part of this process. You all come across as perfectly lovely, terrific people. And I hope you continue to enjoy Palm Desert. The theme of the comments was that the Picasso model is highly attractive. Given that it's highly attractive, lack of restriction would be certain to result in its proliferation. And as I expressed when this matter was last before us, that's decisive to me because we simply cannot lose any more housing intended for longer term residents to short duration stays. Then the question becomes, as posed by Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan, is treatment of this model as a timeshare the appropriate mode of restriction? I had a house guest when this matter was last before the council who asked me casually what sort of issues we would be taking up. And I very objectively described the Picasso model without showing any cards. And my house guest said, "Oh, so it's a timeshare." To the average person, it waddles like a timeshare, it quacks like a timeshare. And therefore, I think it's entirely appropriate for the city's regulatory response to pull the Picasso model of ownership into the timeshare ordinance. The language that was brought before our council does make a distinction by explicitly acknowledging that individual people who take it upon themselves as a group to purchase a piece of property is a distinct category. We created language for that. So I move to approve.
Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you. And as long as we have a motion and a second, I'd like just to make a short comment. And that is, we heard a lot of great comments, both from the public who called in and from our council members. And at this point, what I would suggest is that we make sure that we keep the line of communication open. I know that there is more discussion to be having that, and I hope we keep this line of communication open. We have a roll call vote. Are there any other comments? Okay, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan.
Nay.
Councilmember Kelly.
Yes.
Councilmember Nestande is recused. Councilmember Quintanilla.
Aye.
Mayor Harnick.
Yes.
Motion passes 3-1.
Thank you. Okay, we will now move to the action calendar, which is approve the initiation of proceedings to form the President's Plaza Property and Business and Improvement District, and to levy and collect assessments therein, the management district plan, and preliminarily the engineer's report, and an assessment ballot proceeding so that qualified property owners within the district may vote on the levying of district assessments. And welcome back, Councilmember Nestande. And I assume, is this who will be giving us this staff report?
I will be doing that, Mayor.
Okay.
And I will share my screen. So good afternoon again, Mayor and members of the City Council. I'm Thomas Soul, your Public Affairs Manager, representing an interdepartmental team that is working on this project. The staff report you have before you recommends approval of initiating proceedings to renew the President's Plaza Property and Business Improvement District, or PBID, and to levy and collect assessments therein. I'd like to note before I get too far down the road that Table 5 on page A1 of the Management District Plan and Engineers Report has been updated to provide a corrected version in the supplemental report. And this P-bid consists of all the parcels located in the commercial business area known as President's Plaza that's outlined on this screen in red. Excluding the 4 city-owned parcels, there are 36 unique owners of the remaining 42 parcels. The City of Palm Desert collects annual assessments from property owners to pay for landscape maintenance and watering, street sweeping, solid waste recycling, and parking lot lighting within the common parking lot areas. The district levy is expiring on June 30th, 2022, and consideration for renewal must be approved and submitted to the County of Riverside by August 10th on 2022. I'd like to take a moment to remember where we were in 2020, the last time this P-bid was approaching the end of its term. At that time, the President's Plaza parking area was in a severe state of decline in need of significant repair and improvement. Nobody was happy with the way things were. It was a challenge to keep up with maintenance and repair, and the overall appearance of the parking lot had become unacceptable. Property owners at that time agreed to renew the P-bid for a 2-year term to allow time for the city, acting as a P-bid property manager, to work with owners on design and plans for major improvements. Fortunately, the city was able to step in with remaining RDA funds supplemented by the city's general fund to support these critical improvements. Fast forward to today, and we're seeing positive signs of progress as the construction nears an end, all based on those earlier decisions and direction provided by the P-bid property owners and businesses in collaboration with the city. The improvements that have been made are important value-added benefits for the P-bid owners, for the businesses located there, for their customers, as well as for the community at large. Because of this, we're in a much different situation than we were the last time the P-bid renewal was under consideration. This time, the question of a 5-year renewal for the P-bid comes with a clean slate and a much improved physical setting, providing added amenities like shaded parking, lighting, landscaping, and benches for seating, and improved sidewalk and entry areas for businesses. A major investment has also been made in replacing failing underground infrastructure, providing water, sanitary sewer, telecommunications, and electricity essentials to all of these businesses. This new enhanced setting will offer a premium experience for residents and customers, one that matches what visitors have come to expect from Palm Desert and the businesses located at President's Plaza. A renewed P-bid will come with a beautiful, new, and greatly enhanced amenity that represents a new attraction tool and a much improved asset for President's Plaza. Understandably, though, major improvements and the related benefits come with enhanced obligations to care for and maintain these improvements and all that they offer. The P-bid proposal under consideration at this meeting calls for a 5-year renewal with a proposed budget that increases the assessment to address direct costs such as solid waste removal, landscape maintenance and repairs, water, lighting, and other things such as that. We truly understand there may be reticent feelings about approving an increase in assessment, and we certainly will respect the ultimate decision made by the P-bid owners. The City Council itself has expressed reservations about continuing to lead the maintenance efforts and funding the parking lot through the city's general fund. However, we have prepared and are recommending a renewal plan that includes a city contribution to a capital reserve to make sure that future capital improvements will be assured as a balanced option. Should the P-bid renewal fail, this leaves arrangements for trash collection, recycling, and disposal, as well as maintenance of the improved parking lots, lighting, and landscaping to be funded and delivered by the property owners. If the district is terminated, each individual owner and or business may be required to assume their own trash and disposal arrangements, as well as to take on individual liability, electric, water, and maintenance obligations. Depending on council's actions at this meeting, the process includes the following upcoming milestones. If the resolutions are approved today, there's a 45-day minimum for voting, which places the public hearing for voting on July 14th, 2022. Between now and that date, staff will finalize and embark on a strategic communications plan for outreach and education to all stakeholders. The city's outreach efforts with P-bid owners and stakeholders will be aimed at ensuring that they're aware of the value and benefit offered by the district, as well as the consequences should the district be terminated. Thank you, and staff is available to answer any questions that you might have.
So much. Are there any questions of staff? Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan, please.
Thank you, Mr. Soul. That was an excellent report. Much appreciated. Can we go to table 4 for a moment? I don't know if you can put that on the screen. If you can't, I can just go ahead and ask my question.
I don't have that.
Okay. So trust me when I say that there's a line item called balance to levy in the first fiscal year, 22-23, of approximately $398,000, consisting of the total direct costs of $347,000 and total indirect costs of $52,000, which together make the total of $398,000. In addition to that, we see a line item that says balance to levy, estimated city-funded projected capital improvement costs.
I'm sorry, can I interrupt? Can you tell me where this is? I'm trying to scroll through and catch up with you.
It's page 15 of the Wilden report.
Okay, thank you so much.
And I think it's page 372 overall of the agenda.
Thank you. And so what I'm seeing is a balance to levy of $398,000, and then the city-funded capital improvement costs of $74,000. Am I correct in understanding that really the total cost, if we take essentially the operating expenses for garbage and street sweeping and water and electric and all the stuff that goes into maintaining a parking lot, and if we include the long-term costs for capital improvements and long-term replacements, it's really somewhere around $472,000. And what's being proposed is the property owners bear the cost of the direct operating costs, $398,000, and the city will kick in the long-term costs of $74,000. Is that understanding correct? And then it goes on for the next years at, respectively increased costs. Am I seeing that and understanding that correctly?
Yes, sir. The $74,000 would not be part of the assessment levied on the property owners. That would be city contribution.
Okay. And it was also mentioned in the staff report that this will go to the property owners who the parking lot belongs to, and they can essentially have the city participate in the manner being suggested. And if they don't, then essentially the property business improvement district, the PBID, terminates. And now, as is the case with, I'm going to venture to say, all the other parking lots in the city, the property owners have direct responsibility and bear 100% of the financial responsibility for the required maintenance. Is that understanding correct?
That would be our recommendation, yes.
Okay. And the final question is, should that happen, I believe, and I want confirmation that if, as is the case with property owners in all cases in the city, if they fail to properly maintain the property, the city has tools available to engage in enforcement action to compel those property owners to maintain the property in an adequate manner. Is that understanding correct?
That would certainly be one of the outcomes that could happen, yes.
Okay. That's all my questions. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
My questions were already asked by Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan. Thank you for asking such excellent and concise questions.
Any other comments, discussion? Councilmember Kelly.
And Mayor, for me, your audio has become raspy. It looks like that's true for others, so there might be a connection that's loose.
Not attached to the keyboard. Is that any better, or is it still bad?
Thank you, Mr. Soul and Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan, because together you've painted a very clear picture. I believe the action recommended tonight is appropriate. The city city's history with this particular parking lot is unique and justifies what's proposed here. In this inflationary era, all of us are looking at a variety of increased costs, which are painful but necessary. And it is my personal hope that the property owners will look at the increased assessments here as perhaps painful but necessary to attend to some very, very essential responsibilities on their part in the most efficient way possible, with the assurance of city support, as has been suggested, making sure that this vital corridor continues to be attractive and to support the hospitality, which is so key to our city. So at the appropriate time, I will move to approve.
Is this still asking? Well, IT is on the way, so we've got a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
I believe you said roll call vote. Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan.
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly.
Yes.
Councilmember Nestandi.
Yes.
Councilmember Quintanilla.
Aye.
Mayor Harnick. Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, under the circumstances, I ask Mayor Pro Tem to take over the next agenda item, please.
Yikes. Okay, let me do my best here. I think that was action calendar item A. So we will move on to action calendar item B, which is approve the start of, let me just go to that.
That's the correct item.
Yeah, it's just, I'm opening the document so I can read it, and it's taking its time. There we go. This is a request to approve the start of proceedings to levy and collect annual assessments and grant preliminary approval of the 2022-23 engineers report for consolidated Palm Desert Landscaping and Lighting Maintenance District number 1. May we please have the staff report?
Good afternoon, Honorable Mayor and City Council members. My name is Randy Chavez, Community Services Division, and staff is requesting approval of the staff report to initiate proceedings for levy collections for Palm Desert Landscaping and Lighting District number 1, and declare intention to levy the annual assessment for fiscal year 2022-2023, and granting preliminary approval of the engineer's report for Landscaping and Lighting District number 1. If approved, a public hearing will be scheduled at the next City Council meeting, the City Council meeting scheduled for June 23, 2022. And staff is available to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chavez. Are there questions for staff? If not, are there any comments or perhaps a motion for approval?
Motion to approve.
I'll second the motion.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? May we have the roll call vote, please?
Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan.
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly.
Yes.
Councilmember Nestandi.
Yes.
Councilmember Quintanilla.
Aye.
Mayor Harnick.
You're muted.
But I see a thumbs up. Motion passes 5-0.
Any sound now?
Yes.
Now we can hear you.
Life is good. Okay. Thank you. Okay, so now we are moving to C. Approve the start of proceedings to levy the annual assessment of City of Palm Desert Benefit Assessment District number 1 for fiscal year 2022-2023.
Hello, once again. This staff report, approval of the staff report will initiate proceedings for levy collections for the Benefit Assessment District number 1, also known as Section 29, and declare intention to levy the annual assessment for fiscal year 2022-23. And if approved, a public hearing will be scheduled for the June 23rd, 2022 council meeting. Staff is available to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you so much. Are there any questions, comments? Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan,
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly,
Yes.
Councilmember Nestandi,
Yes.
Councilmember Quintanilla,
Aye.
Mayor Harnick.
Yes,
Motion passes 5-0.
thank you so much. And going to the next one, we are at C. Approve the start. Is that right? Am I at the right one? Yes. Approve the start of proceedings to levy the annual assessment of City of Palm Desert Benefit Assessment District. Is that what we just did?
That's what we just did.
Okay. We did it so well. Okay, we're at D, actually. Request for feedback and direction regarding a potential ballot measure related to city council districts. And who will be giving that staff report?
Madam Mayor and City Council, for your consideration, the subcommittee consisting of Councilmember Kelly and Nestadi have recommended the City Council consider a advisory ballot measure, and they've also provided the following ballot question for your consideration. Tonight, we're seeking feedback from the City Council on the proposed ballot measure question. And just for the benefit of the council, so you know, an advisory ballot measure, the City Council may hold at its discretion an advisory election for the purpose of allowing voters to voice their opinions on substantive issues, and the result of the vote will not be binding on the City Council. Some important deadlines are July 14th is the last regular meeting to call the election for the ballot measure, with August 12th being the last possible day to call the election. And I'm certainly available to answer any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Okay. These are questions for staff at this point. Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan.
Thank you. Mr. Mejia, just on that last point, I'm sorry, I got confused. The last date on which this council can vote whether or not to place a ballot, a measure on the ballot is July 14th or August?
Your last regular scheduled meeting is July 14th. However, the drop dead deadline to call the election is August 12th. If we were to pass the July 14th deadline, we would need to call a special meeting.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Are there any other questions of staff? I know this is quite a topic, and I wonder if I can turn to the members of the subcommittee to provide additional comments or foundational thoughts on this.
I would be happy to. We do have requests to comment from the public. Which would you like to do first?
If you feel appropriate, it would be appropriate. I am happy to bring the public comments in first. Okay, the first public comment we have, and please remember to give your name and address and limit your comments to 3 minutes. It's Kim Floyd.
Yes, thank you, council members, for giving me this time. Before I go into my comments on this issue, I want to thank you all for the work that you do. It's amazing. I appreciate it. I don't always agree, but I appreciate the work you do. I oppose acceptance of this staff report. I'm here to, in addition, to express my disappointment in the council's actions to date on the issue of expanding the number of city council districts and the staff report supporting item D. As I have stated to the council in the past, we have a wonderful changing community. Our city is growing rapidly to the north and east. We need council representation from those growing and changing areas of our city. I support 5 districts to better represent our communities by putting elected council members closer to their constituents in smaller districts. Smaller districts will also make it easier for new candidates to compete for council membership. It appears that little or no citizen input was taken by staff or the city the council ad hoc committee in preparing the staff report. The Citizens Advisory Committee representing different demographics and geographics of the areas of the city should be appointed to advise the council on further action on this issue. I also want to note that I am concerned about the expenses already incurred by the city fighting full implementation of CBRA 2001 and the risk of future litigation around this issue if not handled properly. Taking a no action position would be better than moving forward with this flawed proposal. Thank you. And I, again, respectfully appreciate the work that you all do.
Thank you for your comments. The next person in the queue, and please provide your name and address, is Carlos Garcia.
Hi, my name is Carlos Garcia. I live in the Genesis community on Zeppelin Drive, 74390. I consider the language in this report to be a miracle of obfuscation. It's brilliantly done if the whole point is to confuse consumers, voters, that is, because the whole way it's structured, you have to vote no to support, no on this thing to support 5 districts. And so a vote on yes is supporting the status quo, but people would be thinking that they're voting yes to move to 5 districts. It's very confusing. And the language that's used in this text is also very misleading and very prejudicial. You're talking about, oh, you're going to take away people's voting rights by not allowing them to vote on multiple council members. They'll only be able to vote for one person. That is completely prejudicial language. It's completely biased. It's completely unfair. So the report as written is really just absurd and should be rejected as such because of that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next person in the queue is Peter Green. You have 3 minutes. Please give your name and address for the record. And Mr. Green, you are muted at this time. And you're still muted. Okay, let's go back to Mr. Green after Joan Spear speaks. 3 minutes, and please give your name and address for the record.
Hi, it's Joan Spear at 300 San Vicente Circle in Palm Desert. And thank you so much for all of you taking my comments. And I also appreciate all the work you do for the city, listening in on the meeting today. Wow, you are really all very busy. I am requesting that the draft wording of the proposed ballot initiative be it revised. I think it is misleading because it is asking people to vote yes if they don't want 5 districts. It seems that we should vote yes if we want 5 districts. It also implies that there's something wrong with each of us only having 1 vote. Of course, we should all only have 1 vote, like the people in District 1. If I lived in District 1, I would be very upset to know that all the other citizens of Palm Desert have weighed in 4 times to my 1 opportunity to weigh in on who is in the city council. Please take this back to the city attorney to find better equitable wording and also include citizen input, or don't put it on the ballot at all and save us all time and money. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Let's give Peter Green a go again. You are muted at this time. If you're on, a regular computer, if you simply hit the space bar, that will temporarily unmute you. Okay, we'll go to the next person in the queue. It is a phone number that ends with 1962. Please give your name and address for the record and limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Hi, actually, it's Peter Green. I'm on the phone. I live at 233 Strata Fortuna, just north of Country Club. And I'm opposed to how the staff report has come out. Number one issue is essentially it's a double negative. You're voting no for districts, voting yes for the continuation of the current 2 districts. And I think that's incorrect. That needs to be flipped around. I think other conclusions in the staff report are incorrect. And I think the key issue is, like probably over half now, the citizens in California, we want district elections. So we have our own city council member to represent our geographic area and our concerns. And there's also some voting rights issues with that. My concern is if the city doesn't go to 5 districts, we'll end up in, again, litigation, costly litigation, where money should actually be spent on something else in the city budget. Thank you.
Thank you. The next person in the queue is Mr. Ara. You have 3 minutes. Please give your name and address for the record. You are muted, Mr. Ara.
Yeah, my name is Charles Ara, and 73340 Palm Greens Parkway, Palm Desert, California. So Honorable Mayor and members of the Palm Desert City Council, thank you for the opportunity to offer comments on the staff report relating to the question of the city moving to a 5-district system of electing members of the Palm Desert City Council. I know I've been somewhat of a pest about this, pest, P-E-S-T. As 4 years ago, I first addressed the city council on this issue. And we all know the history of where we're at now. And so as the issue of 5 districts has been ongoing with many of us residents, the conversation is continuing with the council's 3-2 decision to have staff prepare a report. But that's very, very, very good decision. I'm in favor of that 3-2 decision to have a staff prepare a report. And now I've read the staff report and note the statement that the proposed measure shall be in language that is neither argumentative nor likely to create prejudice for or against the measure. Well, that's a very good point. Yeah. We should have conversation about this and be respectful to each other. Now, but moving on, in my opinion, the wording that followed that with all, quote, with all voters only able to select one of the 5 council representatives, that appears to me to be taking sides, and it is not neutral, and it's very confusing. Me, with all my education, does yes mean no, does no mean yes, etc. So this section needs to be reworded. I suggest making it simple with this wording. Should the city move from the current 2-district city council districts to 5 city council districts? Yes or no? So one more time, let's reword it simply. Should the city move from the current 2 city council districts to 5 city council districts? Yes or no? Thank you very much for listening to me. Thank you for your service, and God bless all of you, and God bless all of you. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to address this? Any other members of the public who would like to address this? Okay, seeing no one, Councilmember Kelly, is this a good time for you to give comments?
Yes, Councilmember Nastante, is it okay if I take a stab at summarizing the work of the subcommittee, and then you can chime in?
Absolutely, and I do appreciate your legal acumen that you brought to this ballot measure.
We'll see. Okay. Let me try to briefly summarize how we got to this place and what the subcommittee was trying to accomplish, so that our colleagues can give us feedback on whether we accomplished what we were striving to accomplish. It's very, very clear from recent discussions of this council that the majority of us do not believe converting to a 5-district system in Palm Desert would be constructive, the best way to serve our city, the best way to honor democratic principles. We haven't taken a vote, but that's clear from comments that have been made from council members. At the same time, it's also clear that we have some residents, and the folks we have heard from tonight are very representative, who take the other point of view quite sincerely so, and are passionate about it. And it is respect for that second truth, which caused 3 council members at an earlier council meeting to direct staff to bring back to us a proposed process for putting the issue on the ballot to try to bring it to a head. The first effort that came back to us from staff presumed that what would go on the ballot would be a determinative vote and a self-implementing, that the results would be self-implementing. So it was accompanied by draft ordinance, resolution, and ordinance language that would accomplish a conversion if the majority of people supported 5 districts. When reporting hit the press at that step, every place I went, residents approached me with the same question. And the question they approached me with was, why does the council want to move to 5 districts? People were consistently inferring from that approach that it represented a recommendation from the majority of the council to move to 5 districts, which caused me to conclude that would not be an appropriate response. It would give people an impression which is positively, absolutely erroneous. The majority of the council was not recommending that outcome. So that's what led to appointment of the subcommittee to look at alternative approaches that would achieve our first goal of getting resident input, not just from those who are passionate or active, but from everybody who chooses to vote, without giving any erroneous impressions. And it has been our goal in our subcommittee work to be factual and to strive for language that the majority of this council can be comfortable with. As I engaged folks in conversation who did approach me after that first effort, I found that next to no one had a clear understanding of what our current system is. And that's not a fault. They vote within that system every 2 years at most, they have busy lives. They're not preoccupied with these issues as we are. So next to no one had a clear understanding of what our current system is. Frankly, people in District 2 who have continued to vote for 2 council members haven't experienced a change. So there was nothing that caught their attention. And they also showed a lot of uncertainty about what a 5-district system would mean for them in particular. So this draft language strives to be succinct and to give people basic factual information about what the current system is and how a change would impact them. It doesn't advocate, with all due respect, I think commentators who see advocacy in it are just seeing the consequence of some basic facts. But the subcommittee did secure input from council to be assured that this draft approach is objective and meets legal standards. So we're bringing it here for feedback from our colleagues, again, with the goal of using a question that will assure people who vote understand the current system and understand the most obvious consequences for them before they actually check a box. As in the case of anything that shows up on the ballot, there'll be ample opportunity for people to advocate and argue.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem, your hand is up.
Yeah, just a couple of questions for Councilmember Kelly and or the subcommittee. I want to make sure that I understand where we are in this process. Have we yet committed to the public to put a measure on the ballot?
Well, as I understand it, a majority of the council directed staff to bring a process before us that would accomplish that. So nothing's final until some process is approved.
Okay, so the question of whether we place anything on the ballot or not is still on the table. This is, I think, a step towards addressing that question, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. So you do have a majority of your colleagues who have said we want to go in that direction, but we still have to have a process that is agreeable to some majority.
Okay. I mean, I won't mince words. I get it. I mean, I just want to make sure that there's not been a commitment or a specific vote that we said we'll see what this will look like and then we'll address that. The second question is, I note in the staff report, and I think you alluded to it, is that this is an advisory vote only. So if this measure is placed on the ballot, regardless of the outcome, whether it's a yay majority or a nay majority, it's advisory to whatever council is in place at that point, and then the council can act or not act on the advice of the electorate. Is that accurate? Is that accurate?
Yes, and that goes both ways. You know, the electorate might say they want to keep the current system, but a change in the guard could produce a council that wants to move to districts, and they would have the power to do so.
Exactly. Okay, so that understanding is correct. And the final question to you is, as I understand it, staff is seeking direction on both the proposed measure, but also on whether the council itself wants to act or appoint a subset to author an argument for and or against the measure. Did the subcommittee address that part of the staff request?
No, we didn't get that far. We thought it would be beneficial to get some feedback on the proposed language to start with, and then we can take next steps. And of course, if folks are eager to give us your opinion on those points, we can take account of that.
Okay. And the final question is, if we discuss the proposed measure and say either it looks good or would you go back and tweak it or whatever, what's the next step?
I believe the next step is for the subcommittee to meet again, make sure we have addressed all of the outstanding issues, and bring a complete recommendation back to council.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the clarification. Mayor, those are my questions. I'll probably have something to weigh in on later, but those are all my questions. Thank you. And thank you to the subcommittee for tackling a difficult and challenging issue. Thank you.
Are there any, okay, Councilmember Quintanilla.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's obvious that I'm going to have a very different perspective than my peers. That is of no surprise. And I am concerned for the fact that there's often statewide ballot initiatives where we hear later, someone says, oh, that was a no. Did voting for Prop 22 means I was in support of the short-term, or excuse me, the Uber drivers, or did it mean no? And so I do think it's very easy for people to be confused. I'm not saying outright misled by the city. I think it can just be the wording may just seem a little challenging. I also know that the city can also add a subparagraph. There is additional places where this language could be added, and it just could very easily say, do we switch to 5 districts? Yes or no? And that vote is what keeps occurring. This is part of what CVRA was about, moving to districts and people saying, no, we don't want it. I come forward to say, yes, I think this is the best. And just as each of you hear from one side of the argument, I hear from folks in District 2 saying, how do I get more involved? How do I keep addressing the fact that we want representation from this side of the city? And I do feel that the language is not as neat as a lot of city processes come forward. I think that I agree that this is not binding or finalized. And as we heard earlier, that we still have time to take action on July 14th before it goes to the county in anticipation of the August 12th deadline. So I think that there is still some more needing to do before we put the dough in the oven.
Are there any other questions or comments? Councilmember or Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan.
Okay, thank you. Well, you know, this just has so many different perspectives. I think what's being recommended to the subcommittee, which is to get some feedback and go back and draft a final recommendation for a proposed ballot, which will enable us to address whether we want the ballot, excuse me, a proposed measure, whether we want the measure on the ballot, and if so, is the language acceptable? I think I can get behind that and allow that process to proceed, even though I've shared concerns and I continue to have concerns. In terms of the language, Council Member Kelly, I appreciate you explaining the rationale behind providing an explanation within the language. You know, probably everyone on the Zoom call is intimately familiar with the issue, but we have, you know, 56,000 residents, and they're busy and they're bringing up kids, or they're golfing, or they're listening to national news or state news. They're going to see something on the ballot, and it's important to try to help them understand, because this is an important issue for our city and for the future of our city and its residents. So without wordsmithing it, I will say in general that I endorse the subcommittee's attempt to explain the issue that the residents are voting on, and hopefully help them make a knowledgeable decision about a very important topic. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Nastandi, please.
Yeah, yes, Councilmember or Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan, that was our intent with the language we used, was to make it as simplistic and easy for those 50,000 plus residents you mentioned. Yes, they are leading very busy lives, and it's one of the reasons why I believe that I didn't actually believe in putting it on the ballot, because the voters vote for us to represent them, and typically if they don't like how we took a vote, they cannot elect us the next time. And that's how I preferred to do it. But short of it, I was happy to work with Councilmember Kathleen Kelly, but my whole focus is making it as simplistic as possible so the majority of residents know what they're getting into. Currently, they can vote for 4 members on the city council, depending on the election cycle. And we want to make it clear that if they want districts, then they only will vote for 1 person to represent them. And if somebody happens to live a half a mile away and they're not in that district and they want to vote for that person as well, then they're not going to be allowed to. So I wanted to make sure we had simplistic language that people were understanding. If they vote for districts, they are limiting the number of council members they can vote for to represent them.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? Councilmember Quintanilla.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I completely respect that everyone is busy. We keep hearing how everyone on this panel is very busy. And we speak to our residents across the city, whether I know each of you comes in contact with people that live in District 1 and you don't bounce them off and say you can only speak with Karina. I speak with people across all of Palm Desert. I don't consider myself only serving one district. And I think that is something that the council has been putting forward to say, you will only vote for one. And I think that by going to districts, we need to realize that, just like I tell people, the voters of District 1 empowered me to serve the whole city here. I think that the argument is saying that it's divisive to only vote for one person is simplifying it in a way that only looks at the backside of the situation instead of looking forward to what the needs are of the community in the decades to come. I would like to know, depending on how the language or how the direction to council or the subcommittee resumes, would future subcommittee meetings be open to the public? That is part of the discussion of people that said they want additional input. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments? No other questions or comments? I'll make some brief comments regarding this language. I kept hearing you're giving them too much information. That's how it came through my lens. My filter. I don't think you can give a voter too much information. That's your best voter. I think it is quite simply laid out. It's true. Anytime I vote, I generally read it 2-3 times to make sure I'm making my right choice. I think this is written very clearly. I have, like we all have spoken quite often with our community members. And when they say districts are great, that they don't get to decide who their representatives are going to be. All of a sudden, it's limited. Currently, our council members in the one district are responsible and accountable to 4 people, or their 4 people are accountable to them. As a voting member, as a resident, not as a council member, I want to know people are accountable to me. I want to know they are responsible to me, not one person. I think it's, I hear people say, gee, they only get to vote one. The only way to make that fair is to take everybody else's vote from them. That doesn't really make good sense to me. So to me, this is clear language And I appreciate clear language for our voters. They understand what the vote is, how it might change, and they understand the result in that vote. And I think that is a gift, the way it's written. So those are my comments. I see Councilmember Quintanilla has her hand up again.
One last comment, Madam Mayor. While I understand that that is your perspective, I understand it from the perspective of how my parents would vote. And in the circumstances where they would forget their voter guide, which is bilingual, at the ballot box, they were not as clear on which was which. So honestly, I feel that this language as it stands puts non-English voters or non-primary English voters at a disadvantage.
Are there any other comments or questions? I see none, and this was to provide direction to staff. Is appropriate direction being given?
Staff has received the appropriate direction. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, we will then move to our next agenda item, which is a request for direction on sponsorship of mural installation at the Mccallum Theater. And who will be giving us that staff report?
That will be me. Good afternoon, Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council. I am Amy Lawrence, Special Programs Manager. I'll make this short and sweet. In 2019, the city entered a sponsorship agreement with the Mccallum Theater. And as required by the agreement, the city's public arts staff was to work with the Mccallum in the development of an Instagrammable site on the theater's premises. Upon suggestion by the Mccallum Theater, staff reached out to a local artist to obtain a quote for a large mural installation at the theater's front entrance to include life-size celebrities that had previously performed at the Mccallum Theater. The idea is that people can stand in the empty space in front of the mural and essentially be surrounded by celebrities with the intent that they would take photos and post to social media tagging the city and the Mccallum Theater. The cost of the mural came in at $30,000, and Mccallum staff inquired about the possible joint sponsorship with the city to include costs to install the mural panel and purchase identification signage. So therefore, staff is hereby requesting direction from the City Council on joint funding of this project to meet the Instagrammable site requirement of the agreement. And if the City Council does approve funding for this project, staff can work with the artist to refine the mural based on suggestions that were received by the Cultural Arts Committee. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. And I also would like to let you know that we may still have Jeffrey Norman with the Mccallum Theater in attendance that can be elevated in the event you have specific questions for him.
Thank you so much. Okay, I see Councilmember Kelly's hand is up.
Am I the only one who thought this Instagrammable installation was a form of acknowledgement for the financial commitments made by the city to the Mccallum over the 6-year period? In other words, am I the only one surprised to hear that we're supposed to help pay for our own present?
No, you are not the only one.
Was that the complete question? And am I moving now to Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan?
Well, I do have other questions.
Okay, please.
I guess my way of putting that to Ms. Lawrence is, has there been any discussion that people at the city understood that this was part of the consideration along with all the other things in the agreement?
No, unfortunately, the agreement in the section that it spoke about this was very vague, and that the Mccallum Theater staff was to work with public arts staff to come up with an Instagrammable site. It did not talk about any funding mechanisms, who was responsible for what. So again, how large this Instagrammable site is supposed to be. Is it supposed to be a step and repeat in the lobby that's inside seasonal for theater goers to take photos in front of? So there's really been no direction on how big or small this Instagrammable site is to be, nor was there direction on any sort of funding mechanism. So.
Well, I'm looking at Exhibit B, which begins in recognition of the annual contribution. Those would be the keywords. In recognition of the annual contribution, the following things will happen, which are all bullet points. Things like the city logo will be included in the Mccallum brochure program. Nobody sends us a bill, right, to include our logo in the Mccallum brochure program because it's in recognition of the annual contribution. The Instagrammable site is the next bullet point. It's just one of several bullet points that we're committed to in recognition of the annual contribution. So how do we get to an interpretation in which we have to pay for this commitment in recognition of the annual contribution? I'm still flummoxed.
Understandable. This is just a request for direction. Obviously, if City Council does feel that the Mccallum is responsible for paying for this Instagrammable site in recognition for the sponsorship, we can certainly work on something separate with them that is not sponsored by the city.
I'm not sure I understood the answer because the document does require collaboration, you know, but all right, that's your answer. I did have a couple of additional questions. I didn't get this from the image in the packet, but are you saying it's the artist's intention to, in essence, create a space that people would be tempted to step into so that what's Instagrammable is a picture of them with the celebrities, in essence, making themselves a celebrity? Is that the intent?
That is the intent of the mural. Yes, that it would be a large mural on the front entrance of the Mccallum Theater. And these celebrities would be life-size, staggered on a stage. So there would be an empty spot in a section of the mural where people can stand in front, and it's almost like they're surrounded by the celebrities.
Got it, which is a good idea. And is it the artist's intent to include the names of the celebrities as appears on this mock-up?
So that would be part of identification signage that would be posted on a pillar near the mural, and it would basically list all of the celebrities in, from left to right and front row, second row, third row, and all of the celebrities would be identified that way.
So presumably the identification for the gap could say you, or something to really invite people to catch the intention.
Yes.
Last question. You said if we approve this, that the next step would be to work with the artist to implement the suggestions of the Art in Public Places Commission.
Yes.
Do we have an option of approving it without incorporating those suggestions? Because as much as I respect our volunteers and usually give great deference to their work, I actually thought their suggestions on this particular piece were a bit off point. So is that a choice for us?
I think that would be an option. As the City Council, you can actually bypass that if you feel that that's appropriate.
Okay, I'm done.
Well, thank you. And I do want to point out, it says we'll work closely with city art staff. So that is the verbiage there. Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan, please.
Thank you. So, I do have a couple of questions, but I want to provide a foundation with regards to my understanding and my perception. And that foundation is that I was part of the vote that agreed to fund this commitment of, I believe it's $1.2 million. And if I understand the staff's answer to my question, we started in 19, been contributing $200,000 per year. We're in our 4th year. So especially given the financial challenges of the last 2 years, this is a significant commitment on the part of our city and our resources. Councilmember Kelly is correct. There's a quid pro quo there. Let me call it what it is, and that's why Exhibit B starts with "in recognition of." This is what the city gets in exchange for that commitment of $1.2 million. And I'll note that it includes the Palm Desert International Choreography Festival, and that the budget will increase by no less than $50,000. I don't know if staff has received a report. I haven't. The city will be acknowledged in all marketing materials, including social media activity and so forth, with regards to the choreography festival, the open call, and the family fun day. I haven't received a report on that. Maybe staff has. The city logo will be included in the Mccallum brochure program that's distributed 3 times a year to the patrons. I haven't seen that. I'm going to skip the next bullet point and say that finally, the recipient, which is the Mccallum, is to attend city council meetings at least annually to update the council on all these items. I don't recall ever getting an update. So I'm glad that this has come up, because I think we need to revisit the commitment made by Mccallum and make sure that they're in compliance, because we've complied with our end of the bargain, right? We've been giving them $200,000 a year. I think it's important that they do the same, and that they comply with their commitment as well. As to the development of an Instagrammable site, that's very clear to me. It's the development of an Instagrammable site. There's no language that we would pay for it, and I think it takes a lot of temerity to even suggest that we should pay for something after contributing $1.2 million. I would venture to guess when they have a private donor that contributes over $1 million and there's a plaque going up, they don't go to that donor and say, "Would you reimburse us the $35 for that plaque, please?" So I think that's a little gutsy. And finally, I would point out that we made a similar commitment to the Living Desert. The Living Desert worked with our staff collaboratively for the design of that plaque and the placement of that plaque. Never did they come to us and say, "Great, now would you pay for it?" So I would, in terms of feedback, absolutely, I kind of take offense, frankly, and I would object to us participating financially, but there is a commitment that we participate in the development of the Instagrammable site. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Quintanilla.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I agree with Mayor Pro Tem that there has not been sufficient information that has come forward. I attended the meeting this week, and that's what they said. Here's our packet. Here's what we've done, but nothing after that. There has not been a steady stream of information. And in the Public Arts Commission, the discussion about who was present in this image was people that had performed at the Mccallum. But I showed it to young people that have performed there as well, and they did not find that to be Instagrammable. Now, when the discussion was first held, it was going to be that there was a plaque along the side with like a coding of who was where, who's number 6, who's number 12, but now it's going to be on a pillar, which tells me that it's even further away and not as connected to it. Another observation is we've had additional art pieces that came under question, and what we conceptually approved and then what came to fruition. And without mentioning that project, I do agree that in looking at the vibrance of the butterfly exhibit that was done at UC Riverside's Palm Desert campus, that's gorgeous. That is interactable, Instagrammable. The Living Desert is no different. So I agree that there's a lot of factors to still be considered in whether this is Instagrammable. And I agree, if so much money has already gone in that direction, to say, hey, can you throw up some more that may not even be a good fit for your interest. Thanks.
Any other questions or comments?
No, I would just like to hear from the Mccallum. The representative is here, correct?
Yes, Mr. Norman is here. I also see Kathleen Kelly's hand up, please.
I just want to quickly clarify my comment about the input from the Cultural Arts Committee. It's primarily the first two bullet points that I thought didn't make sense, including aspirational performers would really confuse the messaging. But the suggestion to include a child performer, if there is a past child performer, the suggestion to narrow the number of figures to the most iconic, those are within bounds.
Thank you. I have a couple comments also. In all fairness, let me give you a little bit of an update from Mccallum. It's been closed for 2 years. So there's a little bit of an update. Now, having said that, this last season, they were going full on and did a great job. And we would love to hear more about that, just as the CEO of the Living Desert came and really gave us a great presentation. I would appreciate that very much from the Mccallum. I was there at open night or open call, and Palm Desert did get a lot of attention at that event. And I do want to say that our logo is out in many places. I personally, it's personally because I'm saying it. I do like the mural. I want to be careful that we're not telling an artist, well, gee, maybe the Mona Lisa should have a bigger smile. I mean, this is an artist here. So let's be careful with that. And some of the comments too, they're worth taking into consideration. I would certainly want to provide that to the artist. The Fred Waring, I think more people would recognize the blender than the young Pennsylvanians. So I think we have to be careful with some of that and aspirational. Well, let's be careful. We're not micromanaging the artist. But I think also it would be great to hear from Mr. Norman. Can he be? Oh, there he is. It's your moment.
Okay, I don't see myself on the screen, so that's why I didn't speak earlier. Thank you for the opportunity. And I have to say this has been a very interesting and enlightening meeting to attend. So I applaud all of you for, as other people have commented before, on your service to the city. We came up with this kind of fun idea to create this lasting Instagrammable moment that would also pay tribute to many of the thousands of artists that have appeared on the Mccallum Theater stage since our opening in 1988. And working with the city, we did ask an artist to give us their interpretation. And we were delighted with what they came up with. We did balk a little bit at the cost. As a nonprofit, we do try to shepherd our donors' funds as carefully as possible, and that, of course, includes the city. So first and foremost, we are grateful for the city's ongoing commitment to the Mccallum. In regard to having our CEO come and speak to you, he would be delighted to at any time. I will point out that we have had a little bit of a musical chair situation with our CEOs in the last couple of years, but we have ended up where we started with Mitch Gershenfeld coming back and playing that role again, and he is committed to another season. He loves the city and he loves the city council and would be happy to speak to you at any time that would be convenient for you to listen to him. And with regard to the city's recognition in our programs, the choreography was in fact, the choreography festival was in fact renamed the Palm Desert Choreography Festival. And so that is in every notation, every ad for participants. We have over 100 choreographers around the country who have applied to be in this fall's choreography festival. The recent event alluded to at the gardens on El Paseo was a wonderful partnership with the city and with the folks at the gardens. Thomas Sowell was the one who actually made that connection for us. And we had a lot of people come to visit the city of Palm Desert that probably never would have seen its beauty if not for the Palm Desert Choreography Festival. Having said all of that, we are delighted to take into consideration whatever the direction the council provides and stand ready to work with Amy and her team on either finding a way to make this work or coming up with another Instagrammable moment. So thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Jeffrey Norman or comments for him?
Yeah, I do.
Yes,
actually, I'd just like to thank Mr. Norman. I've sat in, as has Mayor Harnick, on many marketing committee meetings, and Mr. Norman has always given us wonderful updates. And I just think there's just a few things have gotten lost in translation, and I value our partnership with the Mccallum and appreciate the Mccallum. So hopefully we can give directions we can give directions to staff to move forward with the Mccallum with a few little tweaks.
Thank you, council member.
And I would like to echo what Council Member Nastandi said, and also what Jeffrey Norman said. There has been a little bit of musical chairs with the leadership at the Mccallum. So that's been difficult. And then of course, COVID shut everything down. So it has been tough, but there's nothing that says we can't hit stride again and get it where it needs to be. So this was providing staff with direction on a potential joint sponsorship in an amount not to exceed $20,000 for a mural installation at the Mccallum Theater is the recommendation. I think we know where that's going. We can count noses here. And I'm sorry, Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan, your hand is up.
I just wanted to provide one final bit of feedback and direction to staff. When we consider the design of the Instagrammable, moment, I think we have to keep in mind that it needs to be a little bit timeless. Musical groups or entertainers that are hugely popular today can be a thing of the past a year later. I can name all sorts of one-hit wonders. They're really hot. You put them up on a mural and nobody recognizes them, much less somebody from 10, 20, 30 years ago. So, the idea of entertainers, maybe. I think like the ones that we see where there's angel wings or something, that's timeless. People want to get between those angel wings and take a photo. So something like that won't get old after a few years, I think that's important. Just a little bit of just a suggestion. Thank you.
I must comment. Angel wings have been done a bunch of times. And I think the reason they're using entertainment is because this is an entertainment facility. And I think what they've done is good here. And yes, there are some older, there's Carol Channing, but there's also Janet Jackson. There's the actors from Cats, which is, an ongoing sort of thing. Is this going to appeal to everybody? Is everybody going to recognize every entertainer there? No, but let's not tell them that, let's not micromanage an artist. Let's
well, I think this is
appreciate his subjective ability to participate in the art.
Just in response to my comment, let me make it clear. I wasn't suggesting angel wings, but there's a reason why it's been done and done and done, right? It's appealing, and artists typically are not going to be appealing after a few years. And I think it's important to give feedback to artists because at the end of the day, they need to please their public, and art is in the eye of the beholder. So I think the feedback is important to guide the artist.
Certainly it is. And I'm sure they got some feedback on those amazing murals he's done as well. Councilmember Kelly.
All right, we all love the Mccallum. It's part of what makes Palm Desert great. And I often cite the Mccallum as one example that you can have all the amenities of big city life right here in Palm Desert without having to put up with the big city. So we need to get past this issue and get back to living happily ever after with Mccallum as one of our favorite amenities. I'm going to suggest the best way to do that is to accept the general outlines of this proposal. One of the good suggestions of the Cultural Arts Committee was to focus in on those performers who are most iconic, most likely to be recognized. That will address Mayor Pro Tem's point. But I do think we should revisit with our beloved Mccallum partners, whether they want to ding us for a few $1,000 after we've given them 1.2 million. I think treating this bullet point just like all the other bullet points will help us live happily ever after.
Why, thank you. I appreciate your comments. Councilmember Keithania, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I want to just pop in over and wave to Amy, because the conversations that we had this week are ideas that I had tossed out. Like, is there any way that this could be? And she said she's already working on it. So what that conversation was about was having an app-based public art tour. And so I think that one of the components I had asked is there a place to say these are family friendly? And I think that having things in the park as people are already going around the area, that may be something that's accessible, it's quick, easy parking. So I think in terms of Instagrammable and reaching out to a different audience, whether they are local or visitors, I think it just needs to have another shift as my coworkers are addressing. My colleagues are addressing. But again, my gratitude to Amy, who really has been pushing some of these drives forward through technology. And I'm wondering down the line how this would fit in, and also discussions on future murals. Thank you.
Okay, do we have sufficient, do we need to take a vote on this, or is this just simply direction?
I see Amy has a hand up.
Oh, you sure do.
I'm so sorry. I'm not sure if it's appropriate to speak now, but I did want to just mention a couple of things in that the actual.
And it is absolutely appropriate. We appreciate as much information as possible. So
okay.
Make the best.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure of that before I went on. But as far as reducing the number of people celebrities in the mural, that will bring the price down. So right now it's $30,000 with the number of people that are in the mural. So if we reduce the number of people that are in the mural as suggested by the Cultural Arts Committee, that will reduce the size of the mural and the price of the mural. Additionally, with regard to adding a child, one thought that I had was maybe adding Little Orphan Annie, because they have shown Annie there at the theater. So that is a recognizable child. The signage, the identification signage, would be on a pillar that is actually right near where the mural is. So it wouldn't be too far away. It's actually right in the area of where the mural would be. So what I would request is, if you do decide not to move forward with this, if we could get some direction on if you would like to see the Instagrammable site inside the lobby, outside the lobby. I understand Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan about the angel wings, and maybe not angel wings, but maybe we come up with music notes or, something like that. If we decide not to move forward with this mural, we can certainly work with them on something else per the council's recommendation. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
May I ask a follow-up question to Amy? Amy, if the number of people in the mural is reduced. This may sound a little tacky, dare I say, but what is the minimum number of people that we have to where we don't have to contribute to this, given all we already have? So any ideas?
Well, I mean, if you think about maybe if we cut the number of people in half, it cuts the price in half. So we've got a $15,000 mural, but then you still have the installation costs for the panel and the identification sign. And I think that one thing that we want to look at here is that this is a starting point. This is where the Mccallum came to us and said, let's shoot for the stars. Essentially, let's work on a really great project and see if we can do it together. I don't think that they were anticipating putting that kind of money out of pocket for this type of Instagrammable site. But again, that was shooting for the stars. So I think if we want to do, maybe a happy medium, we reduce the people in the mural, maybe ask the Mccallum if they want to move forward with something like that. Or we can look at doing something on a much smaller scale, whether it be in the lobby of the Mccallum or it could be outside of the Mccallum Theater. Again, something you stand up against and take photos, and it's, an Instagrammable site as what's being recommended.
Thank you so much.
Councilmember Kelly.
I don't know if this approach will be welcome or not, but I am going to move to authorize staff to move forward and attempt to accommodate as much of our input as they can. Now, that may be a bit indefinite, but I think it's preferable to taking up more time to specify how many people should be in the mural or any other definitive outcomes.
I would second the motion, Councilmember Kelly. We could stay here all night with different munitions of this.
We could, but we have to let, no matter what, we have to let Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan talk.
Oh, I was just going to make a second, but Councilmember Ms. Stanley
Sorry,
did.
what a cautious.
No, it's okay. I will mention that if there's an opportunity to include Palm Desert and have some recognition, because that, after all, was the main purpose, and the Living Desert did that. So I don't know if we can incorporate Palm Desert, but the idea is to let the world know that Palm Desert supports our theater, and we do.
As long as we have a motion in a second, I want to caution us saying that we're going to go inside the lobby. Think about the last time you were in the lobby. Where would they put anything? They have a donor wall. They are full. So let's not try and do something like that. They have suggested the exterior, which is wonderful because people who aren't going to the theater still can go take a picture. And by the way, put it on Facebook if they want and tag everybody. So let's not do too much management on this and give the direction. We like it, and we'd like to see where they can go. And the council did not support paying for it. Is that accurate? Did my colleagues agree with that? So, okay, great. So that's where we are.
I appreciate the direction, and we'll certainly continue to work with the Mccallum to try to come up with something great to meet this requirement.
Thank you. And I really appreciate what they came up with.
We do need to vote.
We do need to vote. Well, that's right, because we have a motion in a second. That's how this works. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan.
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly.
Yes.
Councilmember Ms. Stande.
Yes.
Councilmember Quintanilla.
Aye.
Mayor Harnick.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Jeffrey Norman, for helping us out with this. Now we're at F, which is request for direction regarding several updates to Palm Desert Municipal Code. And who will provide our staff report?
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. You have a staff report that explains 4 possible code update efforts that staff have identified. Leadership of the Public Works, Economic Development, Development Services met recently and identified 4 efforts. One is potentially adopting County of Riverside traffic impact analysis and vehicle miles traveled guidelines, which comply with SB 743, the CVAG active transportation design guidelines, and an update to the encroachment permit code and an update to the city's landscape code. We all are here, eager to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments for staff? I see a hand up. Councilmember Kelly.
Mr. Bowman, I want to make sure I understand the staff report correctly, that by adopting the County of Riverside's approach, we are, as the state statute mandates, using vehicle miles traveled for CEQA analysis. But are we still able to look at a level of service outside the context of CEQA analysis?
Yes, the guidelines enable us to do both the VMT analysis for SB 743, as well as do level of service analysis. And the guidelines, which we have been using on an ad hoc basis with the development community, allows us to say expand the scope and look at levels of service at other intersections, et cetera.
Great. So we can be all things to all people.
Won't happen. Anyone else have a question or comment? Okay, so I just want to mention real quickly regarding SB 743. That was that bill I mentioned earlier that is Senator Caballero and Senator Roth, SB 1410, that we probably want to pay attention to on this. It will make it a little more reasonable for those of us who aren't next to transit in high density areas. And hopefully it'll make this a little easier on us as a city. Does anybody else have questions or comments? Okay, I will entertain a motion.
I move to approve.
Thank you. And a second?
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan.
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly.
Yes.
Councilmember Nastadi.
Yes.
Councilmember Quintanilla.
Aye.
Mayor Harnick.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you so much. Okay, our next item, I'm going to ask our city manager, how should we deal with that? Shall we just remove it from the agenda under these circumstances?
Yes, the organization has chosen to move the event to Palm Springs, so they no longer need the permit.
Okay, so we will then, there is no need for us to address this item on the agenda.
Correct.
Thank you. And we will move to public hearings. And our first one is approval of zoning ordinance amendment to modify Palm Desert Municipal Code, Chapter 25.10 residential districts and Chapter 25.68 decisions by the Architectural Review Commission. This is the first reading page. Oh, well. So who will be talking us through this?
Good evening, Madam Mayor and members of the City Council. Rosie Lua, Planning Manager. The item before you is a zoning ordinance amendment for the R2 Mixed Residential District. This item came before you on March 10th, 2022 for consideration of staff direction in direct relation to resident concerns. And the resident concerns included second stories should not be permitted by right due to height concerns. Privacy of adjacent owners should be considered, and a need for a public hearing process. The R2 properties within our city are concentrated mainly north of Highway 111 between Deep Canyon Road and west of Monterey Avenue. We also have another concentration of homes east of Portola between Fairway Drive and Candlewood Drive. Staff worked with members of the public to draft an ordinance, and that ordinance was presented to the Planning Commission for approval on April 19, 2022. We had 2 public comments in favor of our ordinance, and Planning Commission approved the ordinance by a 3-0 vote with 2 absent. And just a summary of the recommendation. It requires an ARC approval, which is Architecture Review Commission, for structures above 15 feet. However, we did not change the height allowance of 30 feet. It also requires a design review focused on minimizing impacts to the adjacent neighbors. It was a reduction of the number of stories from 2.5 to 2 stories. And it also implemented a public notification process for owners immediately adjacent to the project. That concludes my presentation. We have a full draft ordinance within your staff report, and I am here to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Are there any questions of staff? Okay, seeing no questions, we'll open the public hearing at this time. There is no applicant. So is there anyone who would like to speak in favor or opposed to this? And I'm looking over, I see no members of the public who wish to speak on it. Is there anyone who would like to speak on this? Okay. Then we will close the public hearing. And do we have any council member comments? And I see Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan's hand is up.
Really glad we're doing this. Thank you, staff. Move approval.
Okay, Councilmember Kelly.
I second the compliment and the motion.
Perfect. Okay, we have, I think we'll see. We have a motion and a second. Can we have a vote, please?
Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan.
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly.
Yes.
Councilmember Nestandi.
Yes.
Councilmember Quintanilla.
Aye.
Mayor Harnick.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Great job. Thank you very much. Okay, our next public hearing is approval, consideration of approval to the City Council for a zoning ordinance amendment to modify Palm Desert Municipal Code Chapter 25 relating to land uses. And who will give us a staff report?
Madam Mayor, that would be me again. Give me 1 second. I will load my staff report.
Go.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and members of the City Council. Rosie Lua, Planning Manager. Today before you, I bring a zoning ordinance amendment for land use changes. Just a bit of background. On February 24th, 2022, City Council accepted a recommendation from a 2021 broker's report and directed staff to consider a zoning ordinance amendment on those recommendations. And those recommendations included a change to requirements for specific desirable land uses within that report. And it suggested to change conditional use permit requirements to administrative use permit allowances. And that would be for zoning administrator approval, which is staff approval, and it reduces the time frame from a 10-week process to a 47-day process. It allows for public notification as well as staff to impose conditions of approval. It also recommended to review land use definitions and it expanded specific land use categories. Staff drafted an ordinance and presented it to Planning Commission for approval on April 19th, 2022. It received approval of a 3-0 vote with 2 absent. And just in summary, the recommendation included an amendment to the commercial and industrial district land use table. And again, it's changes from a conditional use permit to an administrative use permit for restaurants, daycare centers, health clubs, and indoor auto sales within the districts that are listed here. It also expanded a definition for animal clinic, veterinary services, and pet boarding, and added those to the land use table as well. We've also recommended a removal of a special use provision for hotels that require restaurants to provide, that require hotels to have a restaurant with 3 meals a day and or designate a portion of their site for a future restaurant site. That was again approved by the Planning Commission. There were no comments presented by the public. That is the end of my presentation. I am here to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions of staff? Okay, seeing none, we'll open the public hearing. And there is no applicant. So is there anyone from the public who would like to speak either in favor or in opposition to this? And again, I'm looking in the list. We have no one who wishes to speak as a member of the public, but we do have Councilmember Kelly, please. Or is this a comment?
Comment.
Okay, then I will close the public hearing and please provide your comment.
As is true of so many things on the agenda tonight, this item really represents terrific work by staff, getting informative input from those affected by our city policies and making excellent adjustments. I move to approve.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan, please.
Oh, my turn to second both the compliment to staff and the motion. I would add very briefly that I really like the zoning amendment because it means the developers can avoid submitting a request for exceptions, conditional use permits, or a zoning change, and yet it enables the city to meet its vision. So it's a win-win and it's very user-friendly, and I think that's important. I also, along the same lines, really appreciate that so many applications will now qualify for an administrative use permit instead of a conditional use permit. I mean, that's huge to go from 70 days to 47 days. So it just speaks to how our staff is committed to being user-friendly and customer-oriented. And I think that is one big part of what makes our city and our staff shine. So thank you.
Are there any other comments? Okay, I have a quick comment too. I thank you so much for streamlining the process. And you know, we're living what we keep saying. We're all about customer service, and you've done so much hard work on this, and it really will make a difference for those people who want to come do business with our city. So thank you. So we have a motion and we have a second. Can we have a vote, please?
Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan.
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly.
Yes.
Councilmember Nestandi.
Yes.
Councilmember Quintanilla.
Aye.
Mayor Harnick.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. Is there any unfinished business whatsoever? Any information, any unfinished business? Seeing none. Our next meeting is May 26, 2022. This meeting stands adjourned. Thank you all for your work.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Stay healthy, everyone.
Meeting adjourned 6:52 p.m.